Good afternoon. Happy Friday. I hope everybody is safe, enjoying their Friday afternoon, or perhaps evening if you're watching this on the East Coast. It's about 4:30 here, Arizona time, June 19th, and we've got a really special guest joining us today that I'm really excited to have you listen to. Most of you know her. It's Karina Rodriguez, who everybody now knows of, the Phoenix Karen, who was slapped right here in Phoenix, Arizona, in an open display of gross racism in a gas station in broad daylight, and really just a shocking, grotesque display of racism. One of the worst that I've seen here in Phoenix. And again, this is not talking about law enforcement. This is between two people that don't know each other. A woman who's now known as Phoenix Karen. She happens to be the wife of an attorney here in the Valley, but nevertheless, a woman who, Hispanic American woman who stood up for her right to be an American and to be free from racism and to be free from what I would call as an attorney an assault. And it's something that's gotten national attention, and it's something that is really coming at a critical point in our state and our country's history, with all of the activism, all of the Black Lives Matter, everything that's happening right now. It's really kind of sickening that somebody would do something like this to another person. Tell them to go back to Mexico, physically confront them, essentially commit a civil assault, again, in broad daylight, person they've never met, just based on their skin color. So let that sink in for a second. Karina will be joining us live here in a second, and I've got an opportunity to get to know her. As many of you will hear today, we're formally representing Karina Rodriguez, myself and my law firm. We won't talk in too much detail about, the scope of our representation and things that are not, that we're not willing to talk about yet. But I will say that she is retaining us, and we're happy to work with her. She's an amazing person, as you will get to see in a minute. And those of you who've seen her talk about this on the news, you really haven't heard the full story yet. There's lots that's happened, and again, I'm limited in what we'll probably say on this Instagram live session this afternoon, but there's a lot more to the story. And what I'm happy about is that the story doesn't end here. And if you follow us through this journey, you will have an opportunity to kind of follow the story and see how things unfold for Karina. So there you are. Go live with Karina. Boom, let's do this. Let's see. Hey.
Hi, how are you doing
I'm
today?
doing well. Thanks for joining. Sorry for the technical difficulty.
No, it's okay.
We're glad to have you on. We've got some of your fans already joining and showing lots of love since I've been on for about a minute. You've got quite a following, quite a fan base already.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming out on a Friday night, and be willing to tell your story. You were probably listening. I just kind of introduced myself as your counsel, and I'm happy to be serving you. I'm happy to be representing you, and I'm happy to be on the right side of this discussion. I'm happy to be on the side of justice. And
Yes, also happy you're on our side. Thank you.
thank you. Everybody knows who you are, but why don't you just take a minute and tell us, where you're from, a little bit of background so people get to know you. Everybody has seen the video, right? People who are watching this has probably seen the video. But tell us a little bit more about the Karina everybody wants to know.
Okay, so I was born in San Jose, California. I was raised out in Arizona ever since the age of 8. My family background is Mexican. My mother's from Chihuahua. I am a cosmetologist. I'm also a nail technician. I have 2 kids. Um, I'm just kind of a strong-minded, strong-willed person. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You know, let me ask you a little bit about your upbringing. I mean, were you taught as a child to be, you know, strong in your beliefs and to stand up for what's right? Or is that something that you think you just kind of observed more recently?
Um, a little bit of both. So my mom always raised us to be fair and equal to everybody, that everybody's equal and the same. My mom's not prejudiced whatsoever. My mom always has taught us to do the right thing. And yeah, when I was little, I used to go to protests, but I think more it's been like on my will, seeing what goes around in the world that's kind of made me um, want to stand up for like the injustices of the world. But yeah, I think it's something that I grew up with in my heart, in my family.
Are you, Karina, are you a outspoken person? Like, do you feel like, you know, your personality, are you more of an introvert? If you see something, you kind of keep it to yourself, or are you more of an extrovert where you have to say something?
Yeah, I always, if it's something that is gonna affect other people, or it's something that I feel like I need to stand up for, um, where if somebody's gonna get hurt or anything like that, definitely I'm always the one to stand up. I'm always the one to like um, stand up for others, and yeah, that's basically the kind of person I am. I like to be outspoken. If I feel like something's right, I'm always very verbal about it. Um, and I'm always down for a cause. I'm always down to help somebody in need. Yeah, I guess kind of.
So in one way, I know this is a weird way to put it, but in one way, this thing that just changed your life, right? A couple of weeks ago, it kind of is a has given you an opportunity, right?
Yeah, blessing in disguise. It's honestly something that I've always been passionate about, but I really didn't know how to get into. And now that I have my foot in the door, and that we're in the circumstances, now I have the platform to go ahead and get involved more, and um, be a voice, just to bring awareness to what's going on out there in the world. And not just this, there's so many other things out there that we all need to stand together and fight for, honestly. Yeah.
And so you said, you used the right word. You said it's given you a platform, right? What do you mean by that?
So now with everybody watching, with all eyes on this subject, it just kind of, it brings up more to talk about, and uh, it's just more open to discussion now that it's more in the public eye.
Now, I want to ask you, you've lived in the Metro Phoenix area for about how long?
So about 18 years.
About 18 years. And I want to make sure
Yeah.
everybody heard you. You were born in San Jose.
Yeah.
Um, Prior to this incident, has anyone ever approached you in that manner? The way as we all know her as the Phoenix Karen has approached you?
Yeah, I grew up in an area where it was mostly um, well, a mostly white community. So I had to deal with it in my own neighborhood at a young age. There was one instance when we picked one of our back neighbors' oranges, like behind our yard, and they told us to go back to Mexico, and we're only like 12 years old at that point. That's happened before. Yeah, it wouldn't be my first time dealing with this.
So wait, so there was a branch of oranges hanging over your wall? Is that what you're saying?
There was an alley, and we went through the alley, and it was hanging over their wall. But they claimed that they owned part of the alley and that we were trespassing. And maybe we were, but we were so young that we thought their wall was like the end of their property. But yeah, even if we were trespassing, they don't talk to little kids like that. We were not adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. That wasn't nice. That was not okay.
And you know what? I think that this opportunity that you have, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk about this platform that you have this burning desire to launch and to teach people. The opportunity that you have, is it fair to say that if this issue hadn't happened, that you probably wouldn't have this opportunity, the exposure to actually reach the amount of people that you've been able to reach even so far?
That's exactly right. I wouldn't have the exposure that I have right now. And yeah, so it's just the fact that I have all this publicity right now is probably a perfect opportunity for me to do something that I've always been passionate about, but never dreamed or imagined that I could accomplish. But yeah, this is something that's been in my soul since I was a little girl. My mom has taken me to protest, and it's always been something that's in me. And I'm just thankful that something good came out of something so negative, and hopefully better things will come for all of us.
I just want to make a quick comment. There was somebody who was making comments. I blocked them. Guys, I know this is Instagram, but for those people who are watching, let's keep it professional. I mean, this will probably be recorded, and I don't consider. Remember, Karina's my client, so if you say something offensive to her or offensive to me, I'm going to take offense to it for sure. So anyway, sorry to digress, Karina. So going back to the positives of this, you've had an opportunity to get on the media. You didn't ask for the media coverage. People have just been knocking on your door, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's the next step for you in terms of your message? What do you want to do? We're on Instagram Live right now. We'll put this on YouTube. But what do you want people to know you, Karina, as? What do you stand for? And what's your message that you want to convey?
Well, what I really want to stand for is like peace and equality. And I'm not really sure how the details are going to work with what I want to do, but I do know that I want to start a nonprofit, maybe possibly travel around to different schools or to different communities and just talk about unity and talk about racism, whether it's motivational or anti-racism, or maybe both, something within those lines, and maybe just organizing charities so that we can reach out to the communities that are more at need, and just bringing awareness, really, honestly, just bringing us all together so that we can all unite.
I watched the video, of course, many times, and one of the things that just keeps going through my mind, obviously we live in the same metro town, in the same area, right? Is what if you were a minor child? Like you said.
Oh yeah, that's.
Like you said, when you were a kid, that this person said go back to Mexico. But would this story be the same? Would somebody have recorded it? Would there be backlash if you were a child and this adult woman who should know better was verbally abusive like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's honestly what makes me want to start the cause even more, because not only children, there's like our elder community and our migrant workers that can't protect themselves or are in fear to protect themselves. It's heartbreaking to know that there's people out there that are going through the same thing I went through, and they couldn't defend themselves, or they got the worst end of the stick. So really the charity, the nonprofit is mostly targeted or for people that just can't defend themselves and that are in fear. And honestly, for those of us who have privilege or have more opportunities, we need to be the ones that stand up for those that need us the most. Honestly, we need to stand together and fight for those who are in.
I think you said it well when you said those of us who are privileged. In other words, you consider yourself, even within your own circumstance, to have an opportunity to have a platform now, and that right. And even though you're not by any means rich and famous, and even though you're a hardworking person and you're coming from modest means, you still want to use this as an opportunity to say, you know what, even if I have to raise the money to do it, I want to go there and teach people and go to schools, go into the communities, particularly in the Phoenix area where we need it the most, and help especially youth, right? Organize themselves, recognize their heritage, be proud of who they are, and not sort of turn their face when they're harassed and abused in public. Did I say that well?
Yeah, and to be proud of where we're from, not to be ashamed of our skin color, religion, or sexual orientation, or any of that. We're all human, we're all people, and we all deserve to be treated equally.
I wanted to ask you, I know this is kind of traumatic to relive, and you've done it 10 times over, probably every day, right? But
yeah,
for people that are listening to this, what are you mentally and emotionally going through? Put us in that moment. You're checking out at the cash register. What is your emotion? And you see this woman, and you're with your husband, right? Who is, I have to say this, what a gentleman. Because if somebody
yeah.
was abusive to my wife like that, right? If we're watching this, he didn't say a word. He just stayed quiet. And that guy deserves a medal, frankly, because most people would have went off the rails. But anyway, I digress. What's going through your mind as you're standing there? You're just minding your business and buying this. What's the emotion you're feeling? And she's coming at you.
Well, pain for just hearing words like that coming out of somebody's mouth that just are like, it's just unfair to hear somebody say something like that with no motive behind it. Not only that, a little bit of frustration just thinking of all the other people that have to deal with stuff like on a daily basis, mostly when you're at work and you can't really say anything, fear of losing your job or anything like that. Frustration, just wondering like if it would have been my mom in that position. Like you said, my kids, I have kids, and I would never want them to go through what we're going through right now in the country. So better fight it now so that we can better our kids' future than let them have to fight it themselves.
And you made a good point. I mean, what if sorry, I was just looking through the comments here. There was a comment I wanted to respond to, and I missed it, but we'll catch it. What kind of platform do you tell people who are listening how they can help you? I mean, other than following you on social media, and spreading the message of peace and spreading the message of tolerance. What can people do to encourage you and help you build the platform that you're trying to work on?
So we are starting a GoFundMe, and that's going to go towards our nonprofit organization that I'm trying to start. Also, just look within yourself and try to make the changes in your heart. Like, everybody has something to change, and instead of judging other people for their flaws or what you don't like them, you should look into yourself and change your own flaws. And honestly, nobody has the right to talk about any other person, especially nobody's perfect. So yeah, nobody has the right. We should look into ourselves and that.
Your GoFundMe that you talked about, I want to make sure that people hear this, and when we repost this, we'll make sure to include a link. Is that already up and live, or are you working on posting the GoFundMe?
Yeah, I actually just posted it today. So it's been up for about an hour or two. I don't really know the details on how to post it, but I'm gonna get on that. I'm gonna post that on my social media, and the goal is just $5,000 to get started, just so that we can cover all the costs and just everything that we need. But yeah.
Good. You said something that I want to just make sure people who are listening know. You talked about how there are people that are afraid to speak up because they think it might affect their employment, right? Or maybe they might get broadcasted on media in a false light. What are you going to say to those people who are listening, who feel afraid or that they'll be ostracized if they stand up for what they believe is equality and injustice? What can you tell them?
really the only thing I could tell them right now is keep your head up. Don't let any of the negative comments get you down. We're worth more than they're trying to make us believe that we're worth. And we are fighting for you so that you guys can feel safe in this country. So just hold on a bit longer. And yeah, we're all going to try to do our best. And everybody get together and support all the people that can't help themselves. Like, it's up to all of us to do our part.
The one of the things that we don't see in the main video that circulated is what happens after you walk out of the door. And I think it's important. I know some media groups found their surveillance footage, and I've seen the surveillance footage. Many people have not. But did it end there? When after the altercation, after she physically approached you and put her hands on you, ripped your necklace off, tried to pull your shirt off, you walked out of the door. What happened?
So she walked out through the other door, and her car was maybe like 2 pumps away from mine. And instead of going towards her car, she started coming towards me. But I got busy with Greg Connor, and him and I were exchanging information, and she was still coming towards me. At that point, one of the attendants had to stop her, calm her down, and walk her back to her car. But yeah, she was still trying to insinuate a fight, and she was still trying to approach me.
So I want to make something clear. There was actually a question here that's right on point by One Heavenly Flower. And the question is it okay to defend yourself in these types of scenarios? And I don't want to comment too much on Karina's case, but here's what I'll say generally. If somebody puts their hands on you, and again, it depends on the state, but if somebody physically puts their hands on you and is intimidating you, and you are in a very close zone of proximity, it wasn't an accident, and they're yelling at you, is it okay to defend yourself? Of course it is. The question from a legal standpoint, again, I'm not talking specifically about your case, Karina, but the question always for people that are wondering is, well, what is considered a sufficient defense? Can you pull out a gun and shoot the person? Should you slap them? Should you put them in a chokehold? Should you push them away? And the general rule of thumb, again, the general rule of thumb is the sufficient amount of defense to get that person away from you. And when you're in a close proximity, right? Like Karina, when this woman was how far away from your face?
She was not further than 2 inches away from my face.
I mean, at this point,
maybe even 1 inch.
At this point, you can probably smell her breath, right? For better or for worse. You know, and yeah, just so everybody who's listening, how tall are you? Okay. And how tall do you think, this woman was?
She was at least 5 to 5'7".
I mean, she's towering over you.
She was at least 5 inches taller than me.
And she certainly.
Yeah.
And there's no mistake in your mind that when she's coming at you repeatedly, right? Like she went to the gentleman who was filming, Mr. Khan, and then she came back at you.
She actually attempted to push him as well. Yeah, and she came back at me again. She assaulted my husband first. That's not clear on the tape because there was a rack of sunglasses that were like in between the camera and the view. But yeah, she pushed my husband about a minute before she pushed me. So, yeah,
and once again, I'm just going to say it again for people who are listening or came in a little bit late. Your husband gets an award for being a patient man and just stepping aside. And it's kind of tough for him too, because what can he do? Yeah. He doesn't want to put his hands on a woman, despite the fact that he may have been justified. Put that aside, he didn't want to get involved, and fortunately, you diffused it. No, you did what you had to do, and I believe, obviously, I represent you. I believe you did exactly what any reasonable person would have done to protect themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I used any excessive force or anything like that. I backed up a few times before she pushed me, and I never one step towards her. So honestly, I do think that was the right thing to do. I think I defended myself at the best of my ability, and I held my ground. So I don't think I did anything wrong.
Let me switch gears again a little bit. Have you had people reaching out to you directly saying, you know what, you've inspired me to stand up for hatred or animosity and racism?
Yeah, a lot, honestly. It's heartwarming and it's heartbreaking at the same time, because people have told me that I'm their inspiration, I'm their hero, I'm this and that. Also, people have told me their stories of how they were attacked racially and in front of their kids, and it's very heartbreaking, and it motivates me more to stay behind the cause, because, like, honestly, none of our kids should go through this, none of us should go through this. And yeah, it's just unfair for anybody to have to be judged uh, based on how they look or what they feel, or sexual, or I'm sorry, um, religious aspects as well. So, and nobody should be judging other people without knowing each other. Nobody should judge each other at all, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Obviously, many people saw that there was an apology, if you want to call it that, but it was made by Tamara Harrian's husband, right? You saw the recording. You saw the recording of the apology by the husband.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
Your reaction?
No reaction, really. I don't want to say that I don't believe that she has mental issues, because she probably could very well have issues. I'm a psychologist, I'm not a doctor. But one thing I know, that you can't blame your racism on your mental health, whether or not you are mentally, you have a mental health issue. Racism is a whole nother factor. You were already racist before you had mental health issues, and yeah, it doesn't go hand in hand.
Have you had anybody that has backlashed against you, has said any negative things, maybe directly to you, in light of everything?
Nothing rational that I could be like, oh.
I like that you said nothing rational.
Nothing rational.
Because there's irrational people say all kinds of crazy things, right?
I had comments, but nothing that I could be like, oh, well, let me think on that, or it made me capacitate, or whatever, you know what I mean? Recapacitate on what happened or what I could have done. Everything has been pretty supportive so far, and the negative comments that have come in are just not important, not comparable to the issue that we're
so people call you a hero.
Yeah. I don't feel like a hero. I just feel like it's the person that I am, and yeah, I wish more people would stand up, but there's also a reason why people have it, and the fear within a lot of us, and that's something that needs to change. So hopefully with my nonprofit organization, we can go around empowering people to stand up for themselves in a proper manner, where we're not like going out there trying to pull up, or like trying to insinuate fights or rioting, ruining people's local businesses. So yeah, we want to stand up for ourselves, but we don't want our chaos. We want to just stand for the.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I think the crux of what you're saying is you did what you thought you had to do, and the right thing, right? Is that essentially what you're saying? So what's next for you? You're going to start this nonprofit. By the way, for those that are listening, we will post Karina's GoFundMe link on our RM Warner Law Instagram page. So you can look out to that and you can support it. But what's next for you? So you're going to launch this GoFundMe. I think I heard you say you want to have a nonprofit.
Yeah, I want to have a nonprofit. I just kind of want to go around just teaching people on how to stand up for themselves without being intimidated, or knowing how to stand up for themselves without starting chaos, really. We all just need to learn our rights and our basic human rights, honestly. So yeah, I want to kind of go around and talk to youth and just uplift everybody into being able to stand up for themselves, and so that we could all just kind of be
you said
equal.
talk to the youth, and what a important step that is, right? Because you hear about the harassment, and in my practice I hear about the harassment and the abuse and the racism at a young age, and that really breaks your heart. But unfortunately, especially junior high or even younger, they don't know what to do, right? And particularly when they're physically confronted, but even well before the confrontation happens, right? You need to know, as a youngster, of course, as an adult, how to respond, how to engage with people, how to convince them that you're wrong, right? And how to change the narrative. And so that's a very noble thing for you to do. There was a couple of questions that just popped up here. I think actually right on this topic. What advice would you give to the youth?
So I want to advise them to keep their heads up high, not to let negative comments affect them, to be proud of their roots, and to be accepting of others, because if we're not accepting of others, how can we all change? So basically just how to treat each other with fairness, kindness within each other. It doesn't matter what race, and just to promote like self-love, and because if you don't love yourself, who's gonna love you? And if you don't love yourself, it's easier for people to get you down. So honestly, we all just need self-love, love one another, and that's basically it. Just we want to spread the word, and we want to get people involved and uplift.
I want to emphasize that what you said was educate, use your words, use, you can have tremendous force in conversation and education. Obviously, it's hard to do that if somebody, assaults you in a gas station, but the process you're talking about starts way before any kind of altercation starts, right? And it's really on us as residents of Arizona, right? I mean, you and I, fortunately, both live here, to have a voice and to have the platform. And thankfully, you're now having this opportunity to share your story, to tell people that this is not okay. And you're going to continue to do that, it sounds like. Awesome.
Yes, definitely.
Say that again.
We won't stop change.
We won't stop
till there's change made.
So anything else you'd love to tell your viewers or people that are going to be watching this later about you, or about racism in general, and how to combat, what the first step is?
Yes. So combating racism. Well, honestly, just having everybody unite and stepping forward. And if you see something that's going on in the world and it's not right, or if it's in your community or in your work, you have to say something, stand up and say something, because together we are more powerful than alone. And honestly, right now is when we need each other more than ever. and let's just all join forces and make this a better place for our
We're
future
looking
and for our kids.
we're looking forward to all of the new progress.
Want
Yeah,
to make a
looking
change.
forward to the change, but
Vote.
we're looking forward to all the good work that you plan to do. And several people asked, I guess people want to see your hand. It's up to you. If you want to show them your hand, you know, there it is. There it is. Well, there it is. Thank you
And
so
there it is.
much for joining. Thank you to all of Karina's followers. And again, she's going to post her, don't forget to post your GoFundMe. It's a great cause. And we're looking forward to moving forward in the right direction with this one. Thanks so much for joining, Karina.
Power to
Love
the
it.
people. Todo
Thank
por
you.
la causa.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.